Earlier this week, the Lakers and Clippers squared off for the first time of the season in a game that featured literally everything you could imagine. These matchups always seem to feel personal, almost bringing playoff-like intensity and strategies to the table. And the stuff we saw throughout these 53 minutes of basketball certainly didn't disappoint. The first quarter of this game was all Kawhi Leonard. It started with him curling off a screen to get to the mid-range, which gets LeBron on his hip, so he uses that to his advantage by going to a 2-dribble pull-up jumper. Operating from a standstill inside the arc is his bread and butter. This time he sets up in the mid-post against a much smaller D'Angelo Russell and just patiently works his way to the middle of the floor for another one of those pull-up Js. Next time Kawhi gets that matchup against Russell, he's given a little bit of space so that the lane is more protected from that lethal in-between game. So instead of attacking inside, he just raises up for 3 points over the top. He punished the smaller D'Lo with his size, and when it's a bigger, slower-footed Christian Wood who picks him up, then he'll use his speed advantage, driving hard through contact and finishing with length for a chance at 3 the classic way. He can also start these plays with the high pick and roll. The Lakers want to switch the action, but AD's just a touch late getting out, and that's all the space he needs to bury another triple. Here it is again with the Lakers switching, except this time Russell jumps out to the perimeter a bit too aggressively, which opens up a driving lane, forcing LeBron to pick back up on the ball, and that leaves a teammate unattended near the basket for some high quality offense of his own. Another wrinkle to Kawhi's game is his effectiveness away from the ball, which has really helped unlock Westbrook's strengths as a playmaker. On this one, it's a dribble handoff early in the offense, and because LeBron goes under the screen, that's 3 more points for the Claw. It's not just Russ though. The Clippers have a roster filled with capable ball handlers, so when he's away from the ball like this, a guy like Norman Powell has a lot more room to operate with on a drive, as Davis isn't able to slide down from the corner and protect the rim. And here's what it looked like when he was left alone in the corner, just casually pouring in his 4th three-pointer of the first quarter. In those first 12 minutes of play, Kawhi shot 7 of 8 from the field for 18 points, while the Clippers scored an impressive 37 as a team. And it didn't help that the Lakers were dealing with some problems of their own on the other side of the ball. For one, they weren't shooting particularly well, and it's not like they couldn't create any good looks, the shots just simply weren't falling. And when you're facing a team that's shooting 70% from the field, that can create some issues. Primarily though, it was the turnovers, 12 in the first half. And while some of them were a product of great defense, like this one where Westbrook pokes the ball from behind not once, but twice for one of his 4 steals. But a lot of the turnovers were just flat out dumb and avoidable, like this lazy attempt at a kick-ahead pass at the beginning of a possession. Of those 12 first half turnovers, 11 of them occurred with a live ball, meaning that it almost always led to easy offense going the other way, for a Clippers team that was already exceeding at putting it in the basket to begin with. Now, there was a great window of opportunity for the Lakers to strike at the beginning of quarter number 2, and that's because Kawhi and Paul George were both sitting on the bench at the same time for about a 6-minute stretch. But the turnovers and missed threes continued to haunt them on offense, while some really nice play from Westbrook kept them at bay. There was some stuff I really liked from the Lakers during this quarter that kind of set the tone for the rest of the game though, like how LeBron really started to get it going. Instead of settling, he was in attack mode. That last one was a perimeter isolation. This play starts with him getting the ball in the mid-post, but instead of clearing that side of the floor, they turn it into a pick and roll with AD. The Clippers switch, creating a big-time mismatch to attack, and that's some easy offense at the cup. This time it's in the hands of Jackson Hayes, moving into a dribble handoff to get LeBron's momentum going towards open space on the baseline, and it's subtle, but AD's screen from the block makes a huge difference as the 38-year-old drives it all the way to the rim. LeBron's play was one of the only things that the Lakers had going for them in this quarter, scoring 15 of their 24 points while only missing a single shot. and that offensive production kept them just close enough for this to still be a game. I say one of the only things because when Kawhi checked back into the game, we saw a key defensive adjustment. After that 18-point first quarter, they decided to put Anthony Davis on him, and that clearly helped slow him down, because he could no longer bully with his strength, but also didn't have an obvious speed advantage to exploit. Still, even with some things working in their favor, the Lakers didn't do enough to close the gap on either end of the floor. The second quarter was a draw, and it was a 13-point game heading into the half. At the start of the third, the Lakers found immediate success going to the pick and roll between D'Lo and AD. Russell does a good job of getting Westbrook on his hip, forcing Zubac to step over in that deep drop, which leaves Davis wide open as he rolls into a short jumper. This time it starts much closer to the basket, and Plumlee sits back to take away AD's roll, and that leaves D'Lo with a short pull-up jumper of his own. D'Angelo Russell genuinely played a phenomenal game. His 12 points in the third quarter were essential, and throughout the duration, he was one of the only Lakers consistently hitting key shots, finishing this one with 27 points, 6 assists, and a true shooting percentage of 65. AD's impact as a roller and cleanup guy around the rim was also felt in a big way. He too had 12 third quarter points and 27 on the night, including this huge follow in transition to cut the lead to single digits. Of course, in order to come back, it doesn't just take scoring, but slowing your opponent down on the other end. And I just want to say that Cam Reddish had some possessions that had me wondering how his defense hasn't been under a bigger spotlight. Here he is against Kawhi, fighting to get in front and take away that entry to the mid post, so when the Clippers instead set up a double screening action that allows Leonard to dart in any direction he chooses, Reddish makes the right read, dodges a pin down, and recovers to take away a jumper, then defends the elbow isolation well to make it a tough look. This time he picks up the ball in transition, and when Kawhi tries to use a shoulder bump to create some separation, he absorbs that contact and holds his ground before sending away a floater. It wasn't just Cam either, the entire team was engaged and locked in, from Austin Reeves to Max Christie, and we got this absolute gem of a save from the oldest player in the NBA. The Lakers were able to cut into the lead a little bit, finding themselves down 8 with 4 minutes left in the corner. And this is when Darvin Ham decided to get creative with the lineup. For the first time ever, they put out a 3-big unit, effectively running Anthony Davis at small forward next to Christian Wood and Jackson Hayes. Now you'd think the spacing would be pretty messy and they'd struggle to create high quality shots, but that just wasn't the case. Here's a set they ran that gets the ball to AD on the elbow as Wood sets a pin down for Reeves to come get a handoff. And this creates all sorts of options. You have Wood wide open on a roll, Hayes in the weak side dunker spot so that he can space the floor vertically, a shooter on the opposite wing, and of course the classic two-man game that frees up Austin for a midi. To open up the floor with this lineup, the Lakers tried a pretty unique strategy. Jackson Hayes isn't at all a shooter, but instead of having him camp out in the paint and bring in another rim protector, they spotted him up on the weak side wing. And the idea was that when Reeves and Davis get into their action, he'd time up a dive to the basket so that he can keep that help defense engaged. With Christian Wood, you just have a great three-point shooter to put anywhere on the floor, and this one ends up in his hands for a top of the key triple. It was with that exact same setup that we got the highlight of the night, Reeves rejecting the screen into open space and snapping Norman Powell's ankles, which leaves him with all the room in the world to step into another mid-range jumper. Albeit in just 4 minutes of play, the Lakers' offense looked awesome during that time, but the defense was even better. Of course, with that much size on the floor, it's nearly impossible to get anything at the rim. Imagine beating your man off the dribble only to be met by a fortress of 7-footers who are all itching at the opportunity to send away your shot. The amount of ground these guys could cover on the backline because of that added length was absurd. Wood makes himself as wide as humanly possible, AD's waiting under the basket with Hayes on the ball, and to avoid those shot blockers, Kawhi has to rush his floater, which hits the top of the glass. Westbrook's able to secure a second chance and pulls it back out to drive himself, and this literally looks like a 1970s defensive setup with the paint absolutely loaded. The reason they were able to make this work so well was of course AD's versatility. By putting him at the 3, you're forcing him to defend wings, and the way he moves at that size is just incredible. Here's a play where he starts at the point of attack against Westbrook as the Clippers set up a ghost screen action. Davis takes an angle that allows him to meet the ball as it gets to the paint, and when Rush tries to pass out of it, Max Christie's right there to snatch it up and initiate the break. He takes it all the way to the house where he earns a pair of free throws, and just like that, the Lakers are leading this game. By the time the Clippers arrived at their final possession of the quarter, an 80-72 lead had turned into an 85-82 deficit, meaning that they were outscored 15-2. If it wasn't for Russ bailing them out with a 3 at the end of the shot clock, they would have ended this 4-minute stretch with an offensive rating of, get ready for this, 22 points per 100 possessions. Ultimately, this 3-big lineup won with a score of 15-5, giving the Lakers a 2-point lead heading into the final 12 minutes. Of course, in this game, no run was safe, so here came the return of MVP G, opening the quarter with a 1-dribble pull-up 3 right over the outstretched arm of Jackson Hayes. And if you thought that one was contested, I raise you play number 2, where Hayes is quite literally at the 3-point line, putting his hand up with near perfection, and it just doesn't matter. When George is coming off of screens like this, it's not just the shooting threat you have to worry about. This time he's given space to turn the corner on a drive and takes it all the way to the rack for 2. And just like I earlier mentioned with Kawhi, he's just as lethal away from the ball, curling off a screen, catching and setting his feet for yet another completely smothered 3-pointer. This burst of scoring wouldn't go unanswered though. I felt like I was watching the 2014 Eastern Conference Finals again, because on the other side of things, LeBron was completely taking over. For him, it was a heavy dose of ball screens. This time he snakes the pick and roll with Zubac's back in a drop, and that gives him space to get to the free throw line for a pull-up jumper. On this one, he's going to get the ball screen from D'Lo, and to avoid giving up a switch, the Clippers are gonna blitz him, but that leaves Russell unattended at the top of the key as he sets and fires for 3. And when they did decide to give up the switch, Zubac on LeBron, he pulls it back out to the corner to isolate in space. And I think everyone knows exactly which move is coming, the pullback into a jumper that I'm not sure he's ever missed. In addition to the methodical ball screen game, a point of emphasis for LeBron and the Lakers unit as a whole in the fourth was to play with as much tempo as possible, whether that meant setting up their offense quicker, streaking for outlets to score in transition after defensive stops, and this play after a forced turnover where Bron kicked it ahead to a running AD actually put them up 9 points with just over 2 minutes left to play. If you haven't yet sensed the theme in this game though, no lead is safe, and here come the Clippers clawing their way back into it. It started with a goaltending call on Powell's drive, then it was another bailout from Westbrook on a 3-pointer as the shot clock started to wind down. And with 1 minute left, it was once again all Paul George. It started with an isolation against Davis, using a nice change of pace to get the step on a drive and finishing through contact for a chance at a 3-point play. Next time down, it was some early offense. I'm not too sure why the Lakers decided to put Russell on the ball with Cam Reddish on Powell in the corner, because D'Lo just doesn't have the physical tools to really bother George's pull-up triple. Just like that, they found themselves down 3 with the ball and a chance to tie. This time it is Reddish who picks him up in isolation, and maybe he gets too good of a contest because he gets called for a foul, and Paul of course hits all 3 of the free ones. Tie game, final possession, Lakers have a chance to seal it right here, and Russell gets an absolutely amazing look from 3, but just leaves it short, so we're headed to overtime. The Clips started OT with one of those corner screening actions, freeing up Kawhi at the elbow for some automatic offense. But the Lakers came right back with a post-up for AD, and he turns into a jump hook to tie it back up at 119. The highlight of this extra period was the play of Austin Reaves though, setting this play up in that high pick and roll and driving into the paint for a floater plus the foul. Then on the other side of things, he makes a big time help play to strip the ball from Kawhi, and that creates a 3-on-1 fast break to attack, lobbing it up top for the King to slam down. Paul George actually fouled out in OT, so their offense pretty much started and ended with Kawhi Leonard, and he wasn't rolling over without putting in some ridiculous shots. That pick and roll between Reaves and Davis refused to let them back in the game though. This time it's a more patient approach as he waits for AD's roll to materialize, and he uses an up fake to get Powell out of position, which sets up another mid-range J. Every single time the Lakers tried to create a cushion though, here came the Clippers. Again, it's Kawhi starting off ball, taking one dribble into a step back 3, and it's still a 1-point game. Unfortunately though, Kawhi was the only one putting the ball in the basket, so when they ended up down 3 with a chance to tie, they missed not one, but 2 wide open jumpers. And with just one last chance at a defensive stop, they catch a break when Reddish misses an open corner 3, but nobody located Christian Wood on the weak side as he puts it back to seal the deal. The Lakers went on to win this one by 5, even after there were multiple stretches where the Clips seemingly had an opportunity to run away with it. I mentioned AD and D'Lo's 27 points. 38-year-old LeBron had himself a night with 35, 12, and 7 on 75% true shooting. Let's not overlook what some of those Clippers did though. Kawhi recorded 38, PG matched Bron's 35 but with nearly 90% true shooting, and Russ had a near triple-double at 24, 11, and 8. This regular season match featured a little bit of everything, from fast-paced action to slower, set plays in the half court. Multiple big runs from both sides to swing the lead and momentum of the game, some marquee performances, standout contributions from role players, and a photo finish. The Battle of LA never fails to excite and bring near playoff intensity, and this time the Lakers walked away with their first win of the last 12 matches. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn my post notifications on to be first on more content. If you're interested in my more in-depth research, make sure to check out my website and social media profiles. You can find those links in the description. Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you thought of this game. As always, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.